Morena, everyone, and welcome to today's council meeting. Could I please ask everyone to stand for the opening karakia? Whakataka.
Whakataka te hau ki te taonga. Kia mā kina kita, kia mā taratara ki tai. E hi ake ana te atakura, e tiro, e luka, e hauhu, ti hei, mauriora.
Once again, welcome everyone, and thank you everyone for your attendance, and thank you to the staff for all the work gone into preparing for today. Do we have any notices this morning? No, there is just the acknowledgement of Amelia's brother, Tuturangi, that has passed, and so our thoughts are with Amelia and all of the wider whānau today as they, I guess, celebrate his life and know that he's at peace now and free from the pain. Call for apologies. So we do have apology from Amelia. I think that's all. Oh, and could I please move that apologies be accepted? Seconded, Councillor Taylor. Thank you. Do we have any declarations of conflict of interest on today's agenda? No. Confirmation of the minutes from the 9th of April. Has everyone had a chance to look at those and any comments or amendments? No. Someone moved that those be accepted. Thank you, Councillor Lawrence. Seconder. Deputy Greer, thank you. All those in favour? Against, carried. That moves us to our first item, resolution monitoring report, and Annalise is happy just to open us up with those.
Good morning, councillors. This is your usual standard report containing all the resolutions from the previous meeting and the status assigned against them.
Right, so do we have any Councillor Lennon, yeah.
I just was wondering, Annalie, on page 13, item 7.4, just the additional amendment in number 6 there, the CHB acknowledges the financial challenges, it says that there's something that it's complete, but I haven't actually seen anything come back as to what the suggestions could be in the advocacy space. So just wondering if we could have an update on that.
Sorry, councillor, is this for the water services?
Yes, sorry, yeah, Hawke's Bay Water Services Council controlled organisation, and point number 6, which was the additional motion on the day. Yeah, sorry,
that shouldn't probably, I should have picked that up. My apologies. That bit isn't complete. That is still to come back. Yeah.
Cool. So yeah, if we could keep that on track, would be great.
Good pick up there. Any further queries? No. If not, I'll call for someone to a recommendation, Annalisa, just to approve that receive and note. Thanks, Councillor Annan. The mover, seconder, Councillor Taylor. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. So that brings us on to our first decision item, the gambling policy review.
Morning, Your Worship. Morning, councillors. Today, this is presenting the decision report seeking adoption of the Class 4 gambling and TAB venue policy. I'll go through it as best I can. I see you've probably got about a 120-page report. And whilst I'm sure you can quote it verbatim, I'll do my best to summarise it and give you some context around how we formulated the decisions and how we came to the deliberations that we did. So for context and background, you'll be aware that we had a few submissions supporting information provided to us at the time. A significant amount of effort went into the engagement process through all mediums here at council, through our social media, through our Kōrero Mai, and through our internal connections, through Pam and through Christine as well, and through licensing inspectors. We held pre-consultation on this policy, seeking feedback at the really early stages before we even did a statement of proposal. We had legal representation there and inspectors there that could ask any questions, answer any questions, and provide any feedback really early on. And we came back to you with 3 options. One was a sinking lid, obviously, which means no new gambling machines, no relocations, and restrictive TAB settings. And the purpose of that is to reduce machines over time, naturally, as venues close. Option 2 was the status quo, remaining at the current policy settings around a population cap per gaming machines. The TAB venue still no new ones still in effect with the status quo, and then less restrictive, obviously providing a slightly more flexibility for relocations and adding additional machines for future growth. What we saw through consultation was strong public support from community health and community organisations for harm minimisation, being the sinking lid option 1. We also heard first-hand accounts of the financial, social and wider wellbeing impacts through the medical officer of health at Whatuora and some personal experiences with gambling. At the same time, industry funding and organisations highlighted the importance that the kickbacks from gambling have in our community and how it helps some sports and facilities and the like operate. The policy is also silent on one-off events in relation to racing. That's because the mediums within the Racing Act is slightly different, and we don't have the ability to restrict, but also that it's only recently have those events come back to our district. So if in future reviews, if we find that there's something that we can do about that, then more than happy to take advice in the next review, which is in 3 years. On relation to the community.
Sorry, Logan, through you, Mr. Chair, just to be clear though, the on-course activities under the Racing Act are out of scope for this policy.
Yes, sorry, yes. Community funding and data, you would have heard some of the submitters through We Care Trust, Grassroots and NZCT, who are responsible for the leasing of the machines. Sorry. That there was some data missing at the time. Officers acknowledge more recent information became available during the consultation, but we did commence the review early 2024. So the data we had available from DIA was 22-23. And as you'll well be aware now that we have a lot of decisions made at this table, and sometimes consultation can extend past the review date and information will become available. That's just the reality. Officers also noted that industry representatives and community organisations were provided multiple opportunities to engage prior to the statement of proposal that was afforded to council and provide prior to the adoption of the statement of proposal, which we did have good feedback at those, good engagement in those early stages from community, but less so from industry organisations. Relocation and equity considerations. Key issues raised through the submissions were relocation provisions. Talking about industry submitters generally supported retaining the relocation provisions for situations where a lease expires, where natural disaster or where buildings become unserviceable or unsustainable. A lot of you will probably know better than me that we've had a pretty consistent environment for the availability of gambling machines and TAB throughout, from what I can recall, throughout the last several years. So what we took into consideration, summarising all of this, is the level of engagement and submissions we received, the level of support that we received, which you'll see in your report just in terms of percentage base for the sinking lid, option 1. the evidence regarding gambling and the harm that it can cause, the disproportionate impacts to vulnerable communities, the concerns raised in long-term funding as well, and the council's responsibility under the Gambling Act to attempt to minimise harm best we can. So with all that and taking all that into account, officers are still recommending what was consulted on council's preferred option, being the sinking lid. Any questions?
Thank you, Logan and team. Questions? Councillor Moynihan.
So, could you just give me some clarification? In regards to option one, the sinking lid. Sinking lid in regards to TAB venues, where it states resulting in a gradual reduction of gambling availability over time as existing venues close. So my question is, what happens if the current TAB facility in CHB ceases trading temporary or permanently? So under this sinking lid policy, would the right to operate a TAB at this location be lost entirely?
Short answer through you, Worship. Sorry, short answer is yes. If the like we've seen with the Leopard Hotel, they sold the business and therefore the right to occupy and to manage those machines in accordance with their license transfers to the new owners. But in the event that a business closes and no occupant or no new business owner steps forward, then yes, that's how we would create a gradual decline in gambling in the district.
More questions?
Further to that, there's the discussion clearly in point 6 regarding refers continually to standalone TAB venues. My question too is with having a race course in the town, and clearly the TAB is a part of that, the standalone venues is one part of that, but supporting around that as an enterprise, it kind of sits kind of strangely. The standalone venues I understand, but it refers to standalone continually in here, not the TAB being within a facility. So I suppose my question is it the intention to be doing the standalone, making sure that can't happen again, or the sinking lid is preferable to be getting rid of the venue?
Sorry, through you, Your Worship. So just if I can clarify the question, are we seeking clarity around the fact that any closed businesses would involve, that have TAB would involve no opportunity to pick up that business again elsewhere? So correct.
I just wanted to ask the table really if there was any appetite to keep option 2. Instead of going with recommendation option 1, I get that the submissions supported a tighter policy. However, it's their job to do that. I wonder, I don't know that what we've done this extensively in the past. We came up with option 2, which is proposed in this as status quo. I still don't feel quite convinced that our community needs to change that at this stage. I was happy 3 years ago with the option 2, and still am to this day. Not that I'm unhappy with option 1, but I don't see changing it just for the sake of it. It tightens it, it allows innovation and allows a business to relocate and do things differently. Not that I think any of them are probably going to do that, but I mean, I don't know. I don't know if as an organisation we want to limit people in that. This is my thoughts. So I just wanted to test the appetite of the councillors as to whether or not there would be room to discuss changing option 1 to 2.
Yeah, I guess the table's welcome to put forward any motion, so we'll just keep asking questions, but thanks for your thoughts. Councillor Byrne?
We need to couch this in a question. Yeah, but I'm not quite sure how to couch it in a question. I think I mean we sat here and listened to the submissions, and it was quite clear that that we only have a small number of problem gamblers that actually seek help, but from what I took from that was actually the process to seek help is quite extensive. We don't have any support actually based in Central Hawke's Bay, and sometimes you actually need something quite close to actually seek the help. So to me, yeah, I don't know if us sitting around this table is actually seeing the problem. We need to listen to the experts who have quite clearly said there is a problem. And in our current environment, I don't know, there's no question coming. Just to me, I think, yeah, it's the experts. There's a lot of people losing a lot of money. Ask how bad the problem is. Yeah, well, how bad is the problem? And I don't expect you to answer that, Logan, because I think we've heard how bad the problem is, but it may only be the tip of the iceberg.
Through your worship, I'm in a fortunate position where the legislation gives me the direction that I need to take to provide to you, which is harm minimisation. So option 1 best suits the intent of the Act. But we also heard clearly through submissions that the preferred option from both community and industry experts is overwhelmingly in favour of option 1. So that makes my recommendation to you clear from my perspective. Now you have the hard decision to make.
Yeah, could I just follow up from Councillor Byrne, then we'll come to Councillor Taylor. Just on the financial piece, the argument about the age of the data. Is there anything to indicate the more recent data would be any different to those stats where, you know, we're losing 1.6 million from the community? I think that was the net figure. You know, we're getting about 300 to 400k in grants, but yeah, the figure actually leaving the community is much bigger. Any indication that would be any different if we got the latest?
Without sorry, through your worship, without going into any in-depth detail around the newest DIA data, which is available 12 months after. So I would be able to get what data was provided during the submission period was their own internal data. And so they would have a better idea of what data what financial is going out. But what we look at it is globally across our district rather than trying to pinpoint it to one organisation. So whilst they may be providing funding back into our community at a higher rate, from a holistic point of view, we don't review in isolation who's giving back money. So globally, it's all relative. So they're not required by law to give. They're only required by law to give a certain percentage back to community, and that's the figure that they'll continue to provide back.
Councillor Taylor.
No question.
Councillor Moynihan.
No, I'm just prepared to move an option when everyone's finished.
Okay, it doesn't look like there's any further questions. So what are you proposing, Councillor Moynihan?
To start the debate going, I moved for option 2 to stay with status quo.
Okay, do we have someone second that? Councillor Muggeridge? Okay, would you like to speak?
Thank you.
Action, if I may. Is that the 3 recommendations as they currently are, and just removing option 1 sinking lid and putting option 2 in there?
Fair enough. Councillor Moynihan, would you like to clarify which are you sticking with the recommendations as is, apart from just changing option 1 to 2?
That's right. Yeah.
Okay.
Just checking.
Yeah.
Okay. Would you like to speak to that, please?
Thank you. Why I favour this option? This current policy includes safeguards such as limited on machine numbers and population-based caps, which helps manage harm while avoiding unintended consequences. A key concern with more restrictive approaches is the likely shift towards online gambling. Unlike regulated physical venues, online platforms offer little, no opportunity for early intervention, monitoring or support for people experiencing gambling harm. And I'd have to admit, the physical venues, I would think, need a bit of a shake-up. It's not perfect there. How they approach people and monitor that. But anyway, it is there as an option. Additionally, Class 4 gambling venues are required to return a portion of their proceeds to the local community. I hear that community groups and CHB are already struggling to access funding from national sources like Lotto, etc. These outside funding resources are highly competitive and can often favour large urban centres. This funding can support clubs, organisations and community initiatives that rely on these grants. And we even noticed at the Takapau Lions Club, and we do the Bookarama, originally what we gather the funds from that, or the profit, was meant to be Takapau and the Ashley Clinton area, but we've found in the last couple of years that that has now got wider, and we're now receiving funding from the whole of the area because they're having trouble getting funding. It's just a little example. If gambling activities moves online, this funding is lost as offshore or online providers do not contribute back to the community in the same way. This option still keeps decision-making about restriction or our relocations and venue changes in our council hands. We can still review on a case-by-case basis with community well-being in mind.
Thank you. Councillor Margaret, would you like to speak?
There's not much left after that, is there? Well done, Councillor Allen. Councillor Moynihan, you covered most of the points I was going to make. But yeah, just I think by trying to remove the machines isn't going to solve the problem. If people have an addiction, removing things, they'll find some other way of doing it, and everyone now has a phone to use, so it's probably better that it's in the public eye, because if people can see it happening in front of them, that's probably the best way of stopping it, someone talking to you. But if you're doing it within your own home, there's no show of knowing about it. So, and I think at the moment we're being hassled by central government, more and more legislation and more things that they want us to do. Why are we passing it on? Why are we passing on the regulations and things to our community? Let's just ease up a little bit and let things stay as they are.
Thank you. Any further, Councillor Taylor?
Just to note, I will vote in favour. It's going to sound like I'm not. Funding sources supporting clubs and community organisations are welcome, hard fought for and gratefully received, but they should not come from a portion of society that can't afford it. Having said that, as Councillor Margaret said, if someone has an addiction, they're going to find a way to gamble, and I'd rather that was in public than at home where they can't be seen.
Any Councillor Byrne?
I won't be voting for the recommendation. Our submissions, and I'd like to thank everybody that submitted. I mean, there wasn't a lot, but the majority supported option 1. Yeah, but like Councillor Taylor said, the majority of people that are using the pokies are people that can least afford it. There doesn't seem to be a link between people moving from pokies onto online gambling. Yeah, and
we just don't seem to see a huge percentage of what's going into those machines coming back to Central Hawke's Bay. So, yeah, I can't support this recommendation. The government has removed the wellbeings from local government, but we still have a duty of care to look after our people. And we heard clearly that it's Māori and Pacifica that are losing a lot of money to this. And yeah, I think what we need to do is lobby to have a local addiction support group or something based in Central Hawke's Bay. Thank you.
Councillor Lennon.
Motion as well. Yeah, I get that we're going against what the majority of submitters say. I am just concerned, and it concerned me also from some of the submissions on the day, was that so it was suggesting that the majority of people who gamble are poor and have addictions. And we've all, and I don't know that that is the case, because I go to the races and I love to gamble when I go there, but I also love the environment and the day and all that sort of stuff, and just how and I wouldn't say that I'm addicted, and I wouldn't say that I'm of a people group that are poor, and so it's yeah, there is an issue for some people with gambling. But I don't know, like Councillor Margaret said, by us going with option one, that we're going to solve that at all. I think we've done our due diligence in making sure that our community is best positioned to be able to still provide it for those that still choose to do it, because at the end of the day, it comes down to choice. We can't have intervention in everybody's life. And what they provided a venue that they can come out and socialise and also have a drink with their mates and things like that as well. And I get the harm, but I also get the benefit of the social stuff as well. So yeah, so I was why I'm comfortable with two.
Councillor Lawrence.
Following on from Councillor Nend, I sat with a group that it is a group of guys that get together once a fortnight on a Thursday or a Friday. That is their mental health. They all get together and that's their yak, and the girls stay away, and that's them all getting together, and they'll, if they spend $20-30, anything like that in the leopard on a Friday night, that is their thing. And I think that connection missing for them is they don't golf, they've got that's their one thing they do. And I think it's a pretty important part of these rural areas too, of it. It's a bit of an outlet. So yeah, for the balance of there is, we can focus on the bad of it, but there's also some them groups that this is their entertainment, and how can we be telling them that their entertainment dollar that's their entertainment dollar.
Through you, Your Worship, I just want to remind us of who we're sitting here representing. And there's a lot of, different demographics here around this table. So although I don't get a vote, number one just fits solid, because we're not mentioning the kids that go without food, the bills that don't get paid, the domestic violence that goes home, so it's not about fun. There's real consequences here on these decisions. So I don't know how many of you know if someone's going to spend $20-30. What about the ones who are spending $300 or going in doing their whole pay pack? The struggle's real. These things you're providing to feed an addiction, they're not all going to go and get help. They sit at home and take it out on their families. So have a good think about what you're sitting here saying. Yeah. Kia ora.
Look, I'll say something, but first of all, just thanks to everyone for your thoughts and just enjoying a good debate. And I'm sitting here with an open mind. Still not quite sure which way I'm going to go. So thank you to those that raised the option of looking at this differently. I think if we look at the funding request and the money coming back, I can't see that it's a positive, because the net figure leaving our community is just massive compared to what's coming back. So that's got to have a massive impact on our community. And in terms of going online, there's nothing to stop people going online now, as well as what they might be doing at these places. I tend to think online might be more managed. I know if you go onto Lotto, the amount of money you can spend online is limited. So there are some controls there. So I'll likely vote against this motion. Is it anyone else left that wants to speak? Okay, would you like a right of reply, Councillor Moynihan?
Thank you. I looked up New Zealand's gambling outlook in August 2024, so it may even be higher now. Nearly 30% of the population participates in online gambling, and 3% gamble on overseas websites. So it's pretty high 2 years ago. So, but I understand what you're saying, because about 1 in 5 people in New Zealand will experience harm in their lifetime due to their own or someone else's gambling. And when we looked at this policy 3 years ago, we thought it was quite a good policy at that stage, and we're very restrictive. And like I've said before, we can still review on a case-by-case basis with community wellbeing in mind.
Thank you. So I guess we'll call the vote. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? It's passed.
Show of hands.
Yeah, perhaps do a clear show of hands, those for. 5.
You against?
No, this is 4.
This is 4.
Oh.
Those for. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And those against? 4. Yeah. So the motion's carried. Thank you. We'll now move on to the local alcohol policy. 141.
So confused. So again, this review of this policy has gone through a pretty rigorous process, and you'll see that by the 166-page report in front of you, which denotes a few different reports that have come across this table. Some of that you were present for, and some of you weren't. But the process in accordance with the LGA has been followed. And we provided research and issues and options papers going back to the commencement of the review in 2024. And we can, as you can obviously see, our recommendation from the outset is differs from the preferred option that we consulted on, identified by councillors. And again, the same concept for officers applies, is that our recommendation is based on the intent of the Act to minimise harm that alcohol has in our community, and based on the submitters' feedback. So our options that were proposed originally to council were option 1, which is the status quo, which is the retention of the existing policy with the current settings. Option 2, which is the strengthened LAP, which was councillors' preferred options, that sought to balance the harm minimisation in accordance with shopper convenience and business impacts. And then option 3, regional alignment with additional restrictions. This option takes it a step further to addressing alcohol harm minimisation by aligning our trading hours to that of Hastings and Wairoa, who's slightly more restrictive with 10 AM until 9 PM. Or the removal and the reversion of the LAP back to the standard operating hours within the Sale and Supply of Alcohol Act. Through submissions, we heard clear support for reducing trade hours in any form, with the majority percentages you'll see within the body of the report preferring some form of reduction, especially in those evening hours. We heard first-hand accounts from community members that have been impacted by the harm of alcohol, and we also heard from service providers and social community impacts in relation to alcohol harm. Caps and community support, both option 2 and 3, proposed a density cap for Waipawa, and councillors will see that approximately 79% of submitters, of all those who submitted, supported that action, whilst the Metacross of Health through to Whatu Ora requested additional density caps for the entire district. A little bit about special licences and how they're maintained. We also heard concerns from key stakeholders regarding the licensing provisions and the option for flexibility in terms of the 20 per cap. Through that, the condition itself is a discretionary condition and can be applied by the DLC at their discretion. Where we have good order and good relationships and confidence that those licenses are being met to the fullest extent, the DLC has the opportunity to grant past that 20. And the Waipawa Club, who brought it to our attention, sits within the town centre zone, so they are not capped through the district plan either, in terms of district plan provisions rather than licensing provisions. So taking all that into account, given the level of submissions received and the strong support for option 3, regional alignment, so the overwhelming support for the density caps, the support from the majority to reduce trading hours, and the evidence presented regarding alcohol harm and the increasing impacts that it's having in our community through police and medical officer of health to Whatu Ora, and the object of the Act being to minimise the harm caused by alcohol. Officers consider that option 3, regional alignment with additional restrictions, represents the most responsible and appropriate response.
Questions? Questions?
Actually, through you, I actually have a question. Now, I'm just wondering, the cap in any location, but we're talking about in Waipawa, I understand that we want to reduce the number of liquor outlets, but there seems to be, with people innovating and changing and pivoting their businesses, there seems to be an increase in the number of boutique type, distilleries and those sorts of things. Would that limit, I mean, a boutique obviously would, wouldn't it? I mean, how easy is that to allow in the future? Because we have to change the LAP.
Your worship. So it depends on the nature of the trading that they're requesting. So by capping 3 off license, it would be that there would be no room for any new venues to sell alcohol in the capacity of an off license. There's still provisions and opportunity to open a new business that sells it within their organisation or within their business, but not to take the alcohol away.
More questions? Councillor Landon.
Obviously, I was in support of keeping it the time the way it was, but I see now that it's gone back to the 9. Did anybody have a discussion with those that are affected, like the supermarkets, Foursquare or anything like that? Was there an immediate reaction to them about having them doing this, or does it just align with what they're doing already?
Through your worship, New World and Foursquare engaged in the pre-consultation phase before the statement of proposal, and they did have some reactions to it. But the new owners come from a district that of New World that have a 9 till 9 cap, and so they were pragmatic about if it was to go forward. They had systems and processes, as all off licenses do. You would note through public holidays that they have ways and metrics to be able to stop the sale of alcohol as in accordance with the Act. So they are pragmatic. They're still hopeful, and they submitted as well on their preferred option.
Mr. Martin.
Yes, thank you. So I noted in the submissions received, were included from the Waipakarau Club with their concerns about the limiting premises to a maximum of 20 special license per month period. That was one of their concerns. Was also noted in the report that some organisations may be able to apply for a non-licence instead of relying on special licences to help with the above problem. So I just need some clarification. Could you clarify how these different legal structures affect eligibility for alternative licensing pathways, and why similar entities like the Waipakarau Club may or may not be able to obtain a club online license instead of being restricted by the special licensing cap?
Through your worship, yeah, we did some homework on this morning with the licensing inspector. So it's really around the intent of trading and the consumer. So if you are a club, it's exclusively selling to club members, and therefore an on-license wouldn't be appropriate. However, through the amendment that they're making into the Sale and Supply of Alcohol Act, the provision that they're looking to remove is that a specific line that club licenses cannot hold an on-license, and that if they are intending to trade within the scope of an on-license, that they may apply in the future, which is proposed to come into effect in 2027. So that would remove that as a barrier, but we would still be keeping, obviously, for 2026 the cap for 20 special licenses, and they're operating within their capacity currently. Other business structures that have applied for on licenses that are maybe viewed as similar to the Waipakarau Club is around sale and patronage. If we look at the Little Theatre, for example, their operating mandate is around putting on events for community rather than exclusively sale to club members. So they operate in a completely different context in accordance with the Act.
Yeah, happy. Any follow-ups there?
Oh, I just wanted to, so it is correct. There is proposed legislative changes in 2027, which then may help them change the way in regards to special licensing.
Your worship, yes.
Councillor Lynn.
Just so in Waipawa, so the way it is at the moment, if we don't restrict the hour, like restrict the amount of outlets, the process for anybody to just come in and start selling alcohol is quite a rigorous one, isn't it? They can't just all of a sudden decide to set up tomorrow. They would still have to go through quite a rigorous process to be able to do that. Is that true?
Through your worship, yes.
Do you think that these policy settings are being recommended across New Zealand to be able to actually help save on officers' time? And I can understand why you would do that, because sometimes it's easier to just say, like, from the outset, everybody, oh, can I do this? Oh, no, sweep back away from it. If there's even an option to be able to apply to it, it creates a groundswell of operational time and all that sort of stuff. So is it being driven by, is it being, what's driving it in your mind?
Well, through your worship, I mean, again, with the provisions of the Act, it's about minimising harm.
Yeah.
And if we look at Waipawa in its entirety, to say that we can have more than 3 off licence may be disingenuous given the social structure of Waipawa. And so what we are trying to do is limit the consideration for new offer licenses in Waipawa, but also taking into account that the fact that is the community structure are not in a position to be able to handle saturation in that context. And whilst we currently have 3 off licenses in Waipawa, one is operating through a separate entity and once their stock runs out, there'll be an opportunity for a third off license. That will be given the full measure of review before allowing them to operate in Waipawa. But those things will still be present in our community if a third off licenses request to operate in Waipawa. We'll still go through that rigorous process, and we just did a hearing that district licensing chair was a part of around whether suitability was appropriate for the district, and obviously that was found not to be the case.
Margaret.
Your worship, just following on from Councillor Burns' earlier comment, so these 3 off licenses are just in the town boundary of Waipawa. So if you're outside the town boundary, you're not affected by that.
Sorry, your worship, just trying to clarify the question.
So it says a cap of 3 in Waipawa. Is that the town boundary of Waipawa? So if someone sets up a craft beer shop or something,
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
or a distillery,
Through your worship, yeah. So we do and have had that in the past, where wineries, for instance, do set up outside of the central, like what is Waipawa, and they may be Tiki Kina Onga for that instance. It's not restricted there, but it would still be given the full weight and the full measure of our licensing inspectors, ensuring that they are operating and within fit for purpose, as well as meeting all the legislative requirements.
Just clarity on that. So if there was a new business in Waipawa or around Waipawa, and we're seeing it all around New Zealand now, whiskey distilleries, gin distilleries, craft beer, is that going to restrict them having a license in and around Waipawa?
Through your worship, if we adopt the current policy settings, that would prohibit their ability to sell alcohol as an off license. So it wouldn't prohibit their ability to have an establishment here in Central Hawke's Bay. It would just mean you couldn't buy the whiskey and take home with you.
Your worship, apologies if I missed it in the submissions. Did we get any specific comments on the 7 a.m. versus 9 a.m. as opposed to supporting the 9 p.m. cutoff? There was a 60%, I think, in favour of the 9 to 9. But were they just talking? It looked like they were supporting the 9 p.m. cutoff, but there would seem to be no mention of the 7 versus 9 in the morning.
Sorry, through your worship, are we referring to the commentary within the submissions? So we heard quite clearly in the oral presentations around the impacts of alcohol in the early hours from a medical officer of health and the community members that submitted, and the comment and again the commentary around it was the availability and saturation in our community and the opportunity to buy in those early hours. Data is what it is in relation to that, but our medical officer of health spoke quite clearly about the impacts of early morning purchases on those who are dependent on alcohol.
There's no further questions with someone. No?
Yes, I'd like to put forward propose. I'd like to support option 2. Strengthen local alcohol policy, preferred option, introducing earlier closing time for off license, 10 a.m. to 9 p.m. and strengthens discretionary conditions while maintaining a balance between harm minimisation and business viability. Can I add on to that? Are we going to debate on that and then about the 3 licensed premises, or will we add it in together? I may have to add that in.
So,
Cap it at 3.
yeah, and so do you want to change that?
Well,
Is that not an option 2?
Well, it's a separate recommendation, so
it was, so.
oh, hang on, I'll go back to them.
Looks like it's coming under option 3.
To debate separate issues, or would I be able to put in that you cap the 3 off license into that?
Do you support the capping of 3 or 4?
Yeah.
In Waipawa.
Yeah. So I don't know if you want to keep it separate or put it all, chuck it all in.
Okay, is there anyone that can just help clarify that? Sorry to get you back.
Through your worship, can we just ask for clarification on the question again? That's what I have.
All right, so I've proposed option 2. But when I propose option 2, would that include the 3 off license capping?
For your worship, one moment, please, so we can check what went out in the consultation. I think it does off the top of my head that it went out in the preferred option, but let's just clarify that because both of the policies are attached. I'm just trying to get to it swiftly.
Yeah, that's a few more. Yeah.
Option 2 plus Waipawa.
I'm confident that it was, but
Someone else do
3 left.
Option 2.
Right, yeah, option.
Option 3, 99, but
Yeah, it is. That's what I think.
Yes, so through your worship, if you went with option 2, which was the preferred option that went out for consultation, it does include cap on 3 licenses in Waipawa.
I'll move that. Well,
Through you, yeah, is it possible to get what that resolution would look like up on the board? Because we currently have in the paper, we basically need to replace clause 2 of the recommendation with the add and just take that, minutes.
Yeah.
Just, I guess while they're doing that, mine sort of just clarify the sort of difference you're looking at is that 9 AM versus 7 AM.
7 AM to 9 AM. Yep.
yeah, AM.
Yeah, the start opening time. Yep.
Well,
It's perhaps with the money.
What's that?
So much.
changes this.
And that would say.
I no longer included.
We don't want that.
Yeah, a lot of people go in. Want to send the duck shooters.
Population.
Yes. It's public.
You know, I'm happy with it. Alcoholism is bad. Listen to the back of bad everywhere.
Yeah. What we call you not. We were gonna look into it. We could have, but we didn't have enough sense. Yeah.
Do you get good return on ciggies?
Jesus.
Yeah, 10, 15%. Yeah.
What are they good?
Sure.
Yeah, pretty much.
Three in one time, doesn't it?
Lime Rock,
They're outside the town boundary.
One rock.
no, they're not, they live in White Power.
But where they operate from.
White Power.
Their off licenses in Waipawa.
Yeah, it's Wood Road,
There's the bottle stores and the Horsewood.
but they're not there forever.
No, the stocks.
Oh,
There's an opportunity to take that over.
Just,
So does it give somebody an opportunity in the future to come in?
The stocks are only.
It's not.
so I guess.
Distilleries and.
How many are in one?
Yeah, that's right.
Five
On the stakeholder.
supermarket.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah.
It's just it's such an experience.
But, yeah.
No.
Oh,
No.
very good, but five of them, I think.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
For the rest. Oh, but they put that too.
Yep. Start the meeting.
unintentionally.
You see it on the screen?
Okay.
Option anyway.
It's only on this one.
It's not showing the resolution though.
Yeah.
Here we go. All right, councillor Moylan, do you want to just check that's
Yeah.
what your motion is? Okay, do we have a seconder for that? Councillor Lawrence. Councillor Moylan, would you like to speak?
Thank you. My thinking why I support this option is because during peak holiday periods, especially in the Christmas, New Year and summer periods, many families and individuals leave very early in the morning to beat traffic congestion when heading far away to stay with relatives or heading to beach destinations. I think it shows a proactive approach by us for trying to reduce harm while supporting shift-based employees, the rural areas and rural contractors who work late hours during the summer period. I also think this option is a balanced approach, 7 AM to 9 PM instead of the. Don't worry about that. I think it's a balanced approach. It's stated in the police alcohol harm offences report 2022-24. That confirms that alcohol-related instances, family harm, drink driving and public disorder begins to rise in the late afternoon, with sharp increases after 5 PM, particularly on weekends. So that's why I'm still happy with it. 9 PM. I also support capping The off-license premises at 3. Waipawa is a small community town, and I think the number is sufficient to meet their reasonable demand. Added licenses could result in oversupply, unnecessary competition, and put more strain on our community services like the police and ambulance services.
Thank you, Councillor Lawrence.
So my hands response.
Okay, anyone else wish to speak? Councillor Byrne.
I can't support that recommendation. I mean, we've been told just this week to align regionally, and so 9 till 9 makes sense. It's also showing that 7 till 9 is a problematic time for problem drinkers. And I can hear you about people leaving early to go on holiday, but once again, we're not talking about the people that are going on holiday, or the people like us sitting around the table, making it easier for us to, we just prepare. You're going on, you don't suddenly decide at 7 o'clock in the morning you're going on holiday. You usually prepare a few days before. So I can't agree with it. I think we should go with 9 till 9. So I won't be voting for that recommendation. Thank you.
Councillor Muggeridge.
I support the motion. I've spoken to a lot of rural people, and so many of them come to town early in the morning to get back and start a day's work and fill up on groceries and alcohol to take home at that time. It just lifestyle so much. I haven't found one that supported it, so I'm just listening to what they've got to say. So yeah, once again, we don't want to over-regulate.
Yeah, I just concur with Councillor Muggeridge on the hours. The only concern I had was Waipawa with the capping at 3 and the opportunity for a new business to come in, but I guess there's one licence there that's perhaps a bit temporary, so there is still some flexibility there, so I will support the motion.
Anyone else wish to speak?
One question, can I ask a question on a new business turning up? And if they came to council and there was no licenses left, how hard is it to change this to accommodate them?
Yeah, I'll let the staff, if they're willing to speak to that.
You would have seen the volume of work gone into the review process, and it would require a review for any significant change, which that would be considered a significant change. So it'd be an entire review process, which happened in 3 years anyway. So that would be the period to keep in mind.
So just to add to that through you, if that's okay, Your Worship. So there's no exception process provided for if the council wish to get through the process or respond to circumstances.
The legislation talks about minor changes, but in my opinion, without legal advice, that would pose increasing a population density cap would constitute a significant change in the policy.
Okay, yes, yeah. I, once again, am enjoying listening to both sides of this debate. I think I will support this motion. I'm not convinced 7 o'clock versus 9 o'clock is going to make too much of a difference to minimisation, which I'm sure we're all, but yeah, just understanding the convenience for those businesses and the people that might be doing their shopping then, as opposed to needing to come back in at different times. So yeah, I'll support this motion. Anyone else like to speak? No. Councillor Moynihan, would you like? Right.
Thank you.
Okay, so we'll call for a vote. All those in favour? Against? That's 2. Carried. Thank you. So that takes us to fees and charges proposed. Mr. Chamberlain.
Good morning, councillors and Mayor. What you have in front of you today is procedural paper. Every year, council, as part of setting its annual budget, also has to revise its fees and charges that it's going to charge for the following financial year. It's a requirement under the Local Government Act. And it's also a requirement under your revenue and financing policy. This report follows on from workshops that we've undertaken on this subject. Most of the changes are just inflationary. The one fee that did spark some debate was dog registrations. We've obviously gone away and done some further work on that and brought that back in a council workshop. And what we have in front of you today is two options, with the preferred option being that we change the fees for what we call rural dogs that aren't working dogs. So these are your rural pets, and leave the working dogs as they were in the original proposal. So happy to take any questions and
yeah, I'll just start, Mr. Chamberlain. So just clarify the number one in the recommendation. We're adopting fees and charges for the year 26-27.
yeah, so starting from July 2026, so in a month and a half's time, through to June 27.
In my paper, it says 25-26.
Yeah, nation.
Pick up. Yes. Obviously, I copied last year's paper and I didn't alter that one date. Yes.
So that's an important note to make.
It is a very important note to make. And thank you for picking it up.
Search, find, replace.
Looks like it's correct everywhere else though.
Do some backdating.
Okay, open up for questions. Councillor Byrne.
The change to the dog fees, if we were to adopt the $99 for all pet dogs, what would that mean for the gold card dog owners?
Unchanged.
No more questions? Yeah, but question?
Yes, yep. How do we classify a pet dog? Because I've heard a lot of farmers say their Labradors suddenly no watchdog. They need to tie it up beside the fuel tank, and yeah, they think there's ways around this. So what's it? How do we justify what's a pet dog? Does it go on breed, or do you look at each one individually?
Through your worship.
I'm sorry.
I think you've met our animal services officers and they're pretty pragmatic in their approach to what they deem to be working dogs or not. I was explaining to one of the councillors this morning that generally through the registration run we conduct approximately 1,500 plus home visits and property checks to ensure compliance, and that's where we would pick up any perceived working dogs that are Shih Tzus, for example.
Addendum to that, your worship, that's also like things like former police dogs, site dogs, support dogs, heading dogs, hunterways are all listed as working dogs in the system already though, aren't they?
Your worship, yes, and companion animals are the same, yes. So site dogs, for example, would be classified as that.
Yeah, thank you.
And
Councillor Lennon. Oh, sorry. Is it?
apologies, and through your worship, to Councillor Mowbridge's question, the definition of a working dog is actually set out in legislation. So they have to be able to meet that legislative description of what a working dog is. be able to register their dog that way.
Councillor Annan.
I never in my 15 years did I picture spending this much thought on dog registrations, because I've always been quite full of how much time we spend on this, but I just was surprised on the inequities of being a townie and a rural person having a big dog. So it sparked my interest. So thank you, first of all, for actually being transparent on that. And that was news to me. I didn't know that. My question is, does the legislation that Ms. Bousby talked about prevent us from having that we, instead of registering our dogs, we register ourselves as owners of dogs? So that everybody who has a dog, whether it's a working dog or a pet dog, pays the same fee, and then the reduction and the discounts come for every dog after that, and that could be significant, especially for people who are on farms and have a number of dogs, keeping in mind also that they can actually claim GST for their registrations. So, yeah, does the legislation prevent us from changing the way that rather than registering a dog, we actually register as a dog owner, and everybody who has a dog pays it, and then it gets less as with more dogs you have?
Through your worship, that would be awesome. But that is not the reality. The provision of the Act clearly states that all dogs in New Zealand must be registered. That's one of the first lines.
Any other questions?
Councillor Annan like to add that to our advocacy to central government. Sorry, Your Worship.
Yes, because it would be front and centre right now.
I guess then we'll guess the motion and see if everyone's happy with the proposed I guess the change in the dog registration, which is a significant change, and all the rest is stated. So is there someone that wants to move that as is, or?
So can we just have very clear clarity as to what exactly that change would be?
Yep. So on top of page 309, there is under point 17, it's the preferred option from staff, and that is that rural dogs not working become $65, and a working dog remains at 61, and a town dog is 130. So that's the proposal. There is an option that you could go to 17A, which is the one where we treat all pets regardless of location as $99, and working dogs as 61. But the preferred option at this stage, as the paper is written, is that top one.
I didn't read it. Too much of a jump.
But through you, Mr. Mayor, if you wanted to, well, it depends what gets moved, but we would essentially, if you wanted to go with that one price for pet dogs, we would be amending the schedule to incorporate that.
Correct.
The schedule has been prepared on the basis of that top table. It's completely in your hands as to what we do, but it's just where we stand at the moment.
Just to clarify, we came up with some discussions at workshop about that new option, but it was not included in the schedule. The first one was.
Correct.
It had already been included.
That's correct, and we took the suggestion at the table and agreed to go away and model it, and that's what we've done and brought it back for your discretion.
Okay, so the recommendation as it stands includes the top table of page 309. And so either someone would like to move that, or someone propose something different.
I'm happy to
tested an amendment.
Thought you might.
Hasn't been moved yet.
Oh, well,
Can be moved
But-
with.
But I would like to move the amendment that that the dog control fee would be option 17A as opposed to this table. Number so everybody pays $99 a pet dog, whatever your rural.
So I think through you, your worship, for form of the resolution, the resolution will be as per the resolution one. So adopts the fees and charges is set out in attachment one with the substitution of table at 17A, and we'll put the table in the minutes for the fees and charges.
Yeah, that's good. And probably of CE. Is it's a big jump for the rural dog. We haven't had, and whilst I liked the idea at the time, and I've always promoted for the working dogs to go down rather than everybody else being more even, but I feel really uncomfortable that I haven't actually had a chance to ask anybody about this or talk to anybody about this. I feel like we haven't as a table even, yeah, I just with it being such a big jump, can we do that in this system?
Through you, your worship, I certainly think you can do it. It's just where you want to land. One thing we haven't modelled at this stage is whether you wanted to consider doing this progressively over a series of years. We'd probably just need to, I'd have to take guidance from Mr. Chamberlain on how that might look, but it is quite a big jump, and usually in these situations, in my experience, everybody who gets the reduction doesn't say anything, and the people who get the jump do say something. But you could, if this was the way you wish to go, you could do it over 3 years or 4 years and set in place a thing. You could do it at once. You have choices. I don't think there's any barriers to.
I don't think there's a legal barrier to stopping you doing this. You can do it all in one hit. As you pointed out, it's a 62% increase for those rural pets, which is quite a significant hike. My personal preferred option would be, as Mr. McLeod has suggested, and do it progressively if that's what the desire of the table is, and do it over a number of years so that it's not suddenly such a big impasse.
So,
Councillor Taylor.
Just to clarify, I asked it at the workshop as well, just confirming that by rural, we're talking about anything outside of town boundary as prescribed by the district plan. So that would include Horongo, Otani, Takpo. It's only those outside of the town boundaries that come under rural. That's a nod from over there.
A nod from my learned colleague over in
Can I, sorry.
Yeah, and then we'll come to.
so just further to what Councillor Taylor said, we could consult if we move the original, we could consult on what we're thinking next year as a staged price increase. We consult the community.
Or we start it and trick if necessary.
So you will be consulting with the community next year as part of the LTP. If you felt that this was significant enough, you could make it one of your LTP discussion points.
Okay.
I give reasoning to why I support the this is an option. And I spoke to Logan about it at length as well. And at first, when we spoke about it, yes, I was actually in favour of doing more of a staged approach to this because, you know, it does it is better to, rather than just, pull on but this part of the spider web. Yes, these guys are now getting it cheaper, but these guys are getting a significant jump. However, then the recent announcement as well, I think I would like to see us actually have our policy setting quite firm on that as we head into discussions around what the future of local government looks like. And so, yeah, that's why I sort of pulled back on potentially putting forward a motion to stage it, and now have put forward the blanket. Basically, everybody should pay $99 to have a pet dog. So that was just my reasoning. I didn't just do this thinking, oh, no, stuff them. I just thought, yeah.
Okay, so just on a little bit about where we're up to. Did you actually move?
Yeah, I did move it. I have a second.
We don't have a seconder yet. So do we have a seconder for Councillor Annan's proposal to jump straight to that table 17A, the recommendation?
Guys.
Doesn't like it. So that means we'll go back to someone that wants to stick with the original motion, which includes the table at the top of 309. Just well, no, it's not status quo, is it? It's a
Going up.
slight increase.
I'm happy to move.
So we've got a move Councillor Choate and a seconder from Councillor Muggeridge. Anything you'd like to add to that?
Yeah, just looking at that table, the majority of people that have rural dogs have more than one dog. So that leap is quite a significant leap if we were to go with 17A. Realistically, the majority of town dogs, you may only have the one dog on property. So that's my justification of, supporting 17.
Yeah, same reason. I've spoken to a lot of farmers, and they're saying they're running the dog operation because they've got so many working dogs, are paying so much already as one sum, and now they're being hit again with their pet dog. So it makes up 73% of the dog feed coming from the rural area. So yeah, they're not happy.
Yeah, Councillor Annan.
No surprise I'm against this motion. I've also spoken to a number of people, and they were also surprised, same rural people as well, were also surprised that there was an equity there between rural and urban. And that, I don't know why I should pay more to have a pet dog than somebody who lives just outside of the town boundary, because it's the same thing. And the reduction that people are getting absolutely should be through their working dogs. So that's why I'm speaking against this motion, knowing full well that I'm going to lose.
I'm for the motion, but I also agree with some of the things that Councillor Annan has been saying, and but we have to appreciate the value of our animal services team. They have more call outs in urban, but they're closer. We have fewer call outs in the far-flung rural areas, but it's more cost to the business in that. So I would like to, it doesn't have to be in the motion, but I'd like to see us actually look at this as part of the LTP process, in terms of balancing this out in a proper consultation period, rather than us just deciding around the table without having, we say we've spoken to people, whether we have or we haven't. That's my, as I say, it doesn't have to be in the motion, but I'd like us to look at it as part of the LTP.
It's been.
Yeah, I'm going to vote for the recommendation. But I'd like to see a staged, rather than the sudden jump. I think that's fairer. As we've heard, a lot of the compliance is a warning first. So a lot of it goes, unfunded. And I mean, the funds are obviously coming from dog over. So, yeah, I think, yeah, there needs to be a bit of a change with people who own pets in town and people who own pets rurally. Because there could be people just on the boundary, or in some towns, you actually can be classed rural even if you're across the road from the town. So, yeah, I'm going to vote for the recommendation.
Okay, Councillor Moynihan.
I will support the recommendation, and I feel in the urban areas, dogs are kept in close proximity to the neighbours, which leads to high levels of complaints around barking, nuisance behaviour, minor and major aggression. And this requires frequent investigation, monitoring, and follow up by animal control officers.
Yeah, I'm going to support the motion. I do sympathise with Councillor Anna, though. And I think times have changed where we are seeing this. We've seen this increase in lifestyle blocks just outside the town boundary, and so you're seeing a higher concentration of people all living together. Generally, all have dogs, and so I think that's where some of the unfairness is starting to occur. And so I do support the intention of an increase, but not a sudden jump. And so I think we adopt this motion as it is today in that table, and then put a lot more thought around how we can address some of those equity issues going forward.
Through you, Your Worship, that's a good direction for the staff to take into the
Rich, to speak again, just so we've and it's partially my fault because I brought up the working dogs to start with in workshop, but just to note the freedom camping and the resource consents and transfer station changes, retirement housing rentals not going up. There's a hell of a lot else and heck of a lot else, and fees and charges that we're passing here today. And I was just hesitant to know that we've focused on one sort of point that's I'd just like to thank Mr. Chamberlain and all the rest of the teams for the work they've put in for the rest of the fees and charges.
Good point. Councillor Choate, would you like a word of reply?
Yeah, I'm listening to both sides. It's that grey area, as Will was stating, with the lifestyle blocks. And considering, yeah, to move forward. Yeah, I'm happy to move forward. Sorry. Yeah.
Okay. All those in favour? Against?
Yep.
And that's carried.
Consistency.
Right. Thank you everyone for that. So this is our last item before morning tea, water supply and stormwater bylaws, page 352.
All right. Good morning, Your Worship and councillors. So the report in front of you today seeks council endorsement to proceed to public consultation on some proposed changes to the water supply and stormwater bylaws. And it also seeks adoption of the minor updates to the wastewater and trade waste bylaws. Bylaw reviews are part of council's statutory obligation under Local Government Act to ensure bylaws remain fit for purpose and legally compliant. We have recently reviewed all 4 of the water services bylaws, noting that most of the changes proposed are quite minor in nature. However, the changes in the water supply and stormwater bylaws, or some of the changes in those bylaws, are classified as substantive because they do affect property owners' obligations, and because of that, consultation is required. Just touching on those changes. So within the wastewater and trade waste bylaws, they are only minor corrections, clarifications, grammatical and typographical changes, typographical changes. There's no change in the intent, the cost or users' rights. These do not require consultation under the legislation, and hence why we're recommending today that you adopt those. as mentioned, the substantive changes in the other bylaws, the water supply and stormwater bylaws, do apply. Just summarising the main changes, so those ones that are classed as substantive. Firstly, in the water supply bylaw, water metering. This updates council's ability to introduce water metering in the future if required. It does not introduce metering now. It simply is future-proofing the bylaw. In respect of rainwater tanks, again, this clarifies within the bylaw that the requirement to install a 3,000 litre tank with all new buildings in urban water supply areas applies whether a building consent is required or not. And this is primarily a response to national legislation change, which may have otherwise created a loophole or a perceived loophole. Potentially the largest change is around backflow prevention. What the intent of the changes are to strengthen the requirements to meet the national drinking water quality assurance rules. It clarifies the responsibilities for the installation, ongoing testing, the cost of those activities. You'll note in the paper that several cost sharing options are proposed for consultation. Officers have put together a preferred approach being a 20%, 80% council and property owner split. There are also some estimated costs in the paper that provide some scale what that would mean. Key changes in the stormwater bylaw are very similar to the water supply. It essentially speaks to the need for all buildings, regardless of the need for a building consent, to manage the stormwater runoff from their property. Again, is primarily in response to national legislative change. Just re-emphasising today, we are not asking you to adopt those main bylaw changes. We are simply asking you to approve officers to go and undertake a special consultative procedure. We are asking for an adoption of the minor updates to the wastewater and trade waste bylaws, however. In closing, this paper and this review process and the potential next steps subject to your decision today are about keeping our bylaws legally sound, closing any of the unintended gaps that were unforeseeable at the time we adopted these bylaws in 2021, while also giving community an opportunity to have their say on some of the aspects that may affect them. Otherwise, I'll take the paper as read and I'm obviously happy to answer any questions.
Ben, any questions? Get someone in.
Yes, just in regards to the major changes, and you're going to go out and consult. Do you have any idea what time period that would be?
Through you, Worship. So we're just working through with our communications team to prepare a consultation package. We haven't firmed up any particular dates, but the view would be that we would be starting consultation most likely next month in June.
And that would go for?
Again, we haven't firmed up any particular dates, but it would likely be a 6-ish week period, I would assume.
Lena?
I'm happy to move. I think that was an amazing explanation. Thank you. That blew me away. That was really good. Yeah, very happy to move.
Yeah, I agree. I'm happy to second that. Well done explaining that, and it all seems pretty straightforward.
Yeah. Question that I'm trying to find.
Oh,
sorry
through
you. No, I'm happy to support too, but I'm just wondering. I had it here now. I can't find where it is in the document, but the water supply bylaw is still recommending the cost is met by the targeted ratepayer, the majority. Is
that? Through you, sorry, is that question in relation to the backflow device?
Oh, sorry, yeah.
So the table on page 355.
Okay, I'm still way off. Hang on. My docs on tech doesn't like to play with me sometimes. 355. I know.
while we're finding that, so through your worship, so the table on page 355, officer's recommendation is option 2A, which splits the cost of backflow devices, 80% of the cost of installation being borne by the individual,
Yeah.
20% being funded by the targeted water supply rate.
Okay. Is this what you're going out to is this what you're going out to consult on?
Correct. So re-emphasising that this is not a decision about that today, it's a decision about consultation, but we would be we would expect that this would be the major topic of the consultation is who is responsible and what is the appropriate split of the costs for those.
Because we previously talked that there is some general, public good, and it's not all urban-based people actually, receiving that good. Is there any, and when do we actually consult on that? When does that, once it's gone out, is that in the bylaw and there's no opportunity to change it? Or?
So through your worship, so the consultation process would be undertaken. So changes to these bylaws would not, we're not seeking your adoption of those today. So the existing stormwater and water supply bylaw, as they're adopted in 2021, would remain in force until such time as a further decision by this table. We would consult on the options that essentially have been presented in the paper at this stage, noting that we have essentially required to identify a preferred option and provide a statement of proposal that indicates why we've said that and what the impacts of that would be. I would speak to the fact that that as we have discussed in workshops, there is a split here between the users who are undertaking the activity that in turn creates the risk for the wider network. So on one hand, they are the user that's creating the need. On the other hand, there is a general public good in that the actual device itself protects the wider network. And would also note that the water supply activity is, and Mr. Chamberlain may get this wrong, the water supply activity is funded fully by the water supply targeted rate.
Yeah. No, and I understand that. I'm thinking of a private pool, definitely a private pool, the people that own the pool get the benefit, definitely 80-20, but I'm thinking more of the, the commercial, more public places like schools and, medical centres, those sorts of things, or, where there's actually a benefit to all. But anyway, okay, I see the point. There's no need to debate that. So thank you.
Another question?
Yeah. In relation to the minister has expressed support in theory for the, I've forgotten what the RES stands for now, Ratepayer Assistance Scheme, which enables ratepayers to access finance at about 2% less than a standard floating mortgage rate for specific property improvements that have a public benefit. Can this be discussed or included as part of the public consultation for the backflow prevention cost? If it happens? I didn't realise it wasn't in place.
So at the moment, there's a proposal to bring in a ratepayer assistance scheme. It's going through Parliament at the moment. Requires a law change, so it's not actually law at the moment. But should that come in, that will allow ratepayers to, there's three things that they're looking at. One is essentially pay for part of your rates through the scheme, and let's take it like a reverse equity type mortgage against your property, and then the other is for property improvements. And traditionally councils have provided ratepayer schemes for things like insulation or solar or those sort of things, typically done through a regional council. Both of those are done through a targeted rate, so normally a voluntary targeted rate, because it wouldn't apply to all water connections. And if it was funded through a voluntary targeted rate, then the ratepayer assistance scheme would be able to respond to that once it comes into place. On the flip side, may be that we choose to on charge this through a like an installation fee, because the cost for installing one of these will be different for each property. If it was done that way, it's not a rate anymore, and therefore the ratepayer assistance scheme wouldn't be applicable. So that is a consideration that we need to take into account when we're thinking through this bylaw and what is the charging mechanism, and has that ratepayer assistance scheme been passed into law at that stage.
That's through you, your worship. That's all right. So the fact that the RES isn't in yet means it can't be part of the discussion of in the consultation.
Well, it's not in at the moment, but all signs are that it's moving ahead positively, and they're hoping that it will go through the select committee before the election. But I've got a lot of legislation changes.
How we had the decision there between rating and a fee. If there was a way for them to borrow, you know, cheaply, then that might sway us in one direction over the other. But yeah, my question, I've asked my question, so I'm happy. You've got to move her in a second, or I'll shut up now.
And based on, yeah, that, but
I think you've answered it.
there's no further questions. We do have a mover and a seconder, and yeah, no one wants to speak. All those in favour?
No.
Against? Carried. Thank you. That's morning tea.
Where my notes were.
Okay, welcome back, everyone. So we do have a couple more items on the agenda for this meeting, but the CE just has an update on an administrative matter.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just we have noticed, thank you, Councillor Taylor, that the minutes that were included in the pack, and I think on the council's online pack, where we approved the minutes were the public excluded minutes for the meeting and not the full set of the minutes. You have passed a resolution to adopt the minutes, so that's part's fine. But Emily is just recirculating those the actual minutes. So if you get a chance to look at those and just make sure they're okay. If anybody has any queries by the end of the meeting, we can come back and address those if there's any corrections. But otherwise, if not, adopted the minutes and fine.
Fish for you.
Thank you. Right, that leads us on to draft annual plan update. Mr. Chamberlain, please.
Good morning again. So what you have in front of you today is a report that brings to you the latest draft annual plan for 26-27 with the refinements that have been put through since February when I last reported, and also a resolution to amend some use of some better off funding. Just by way of recap, this budget that you are considering today is the equivalent of year 3 of the 3-year plan. That was the starting point. The 3-year plan had us at a 10.9% rate increase. When I presented to you last in February, we had got that down to a 7.7. And today what you have in front of you is an average of 6.7, so a further 1% reduction from where we were in February. The report starts off by reminding you what I presented to you about in February and what changes we had made from the 3-year plan. And what I want to bring to your attention today is what those further refinements have been since February. We've looked at the water service delivery capital program and looked at the timing and refined some of that. We've looked at what better off funding is left and how we might best utilise that to fund some of what was originally rate funded activities. We've looked at some of what was in the roading budget and made some further reductions there. We've also looked at our year-to-date financial results for council and have a couple of activities that will be in surplus, and we're proposing to carry those surpluses forward and collect less rates as a result next year. We have some things going the other way as well. One of our main contractors has recently put in a claim for a backdated CPI adjustment, which we've provided for in this revised budget. And we have a couple of community facility buildings that are in need of some urgent repairs, which we've also added into the budget. So this brings us to a 6.7% average. Unlike the 3-year plan, where by year 3, the rates were going to fall relatively evenly between urban and rural, because of the better off funding being applied to only water projects, the split has now changed. And you can see on page 462 and 463 of your packs some sample ratepayers, and you'll see that urban water connected ratepayers are paying a much lower rate than the 6.7, and the rural non-connected ratepayer is paying slightly more. The budget, just to be totally transparent, has some risk involved in it. In particular, the budget was largely prepared before the current conflict in Iran took place. And so the fuel escalations that we're seeing haven't been fully factored in. Reminding you that it's not just fuel for council, it's also the pipes that we use have an oil derivative in them. Bitumen, which is our roading reseal program, is also oil-based. And we have a number of contracts that are linked to fuel prices, such as our landfill and curbside collection contracts. So if this war carries on, there is a real risk that these budgets might be slightly light. The fuel is also driving inflation at the moment. The inflation assumption that we've got in here is 2.8, whereas the last quarter, the inflation was 3.1. So again, there's a risk around that. Obviously, we haven't seen it here yet in New Zealand, but the Australian Reserve Bank has reacted to their inflation figures and have just recently increased their OCR equivalent, and that may well happen here as well. So that might put some of our financing costs under pressure as well. So yes, 6.7 is a good place to get to, but also just waving the flag that we're not living in a perfect stable world at the moment, and there is some potential cost risks with this. Yeah, so that's my highlights and lowlights of what's happened since February, but happy to take any questions.
I might just start off there, Mr. Chamberlain. Can you remind me the economic development contribution that we were paying up till recently? Is that still in this budget? And I'm just thinking of regional office and sort of future contributions to that if required.
Yep. So what we have in the budget is that we will continue paying a regional economic contribution at the same rate as was budgeted for this year. What we have done, however, is that we normally pay the annual contribution in two parts. So for the 6 months and the second 6 months. For the current year, we haven't yet paid the second 6 months, and there is a proposal built into this budget that the funding that we aren't paying this year will be carried forward and pay one of the 2 installments for next year.
Right. Councillor Ben.
The repurposing of the Better Off funding that was signalled to be used on wastewater inflow and infiltration. Just the investigation that we've already done on that, is that wasted, or can that be parked and used at a later date? I mean, at what point do we say we have to redo it all over again if it's repurposed?
So parts of that are already being implemented where it's on the council side, but on the private property owner side, those defects will still continue to exist, and I would imagine at some point, but not in the next 12 months, we will probably pick that up and continue with that.
Yeah, just through your worship, just to add to that, it's an I&I is an ongoing focus, and it would have to be picked up by the CCO. The 150,000, we can't do much with that, and the revised water services plan that was approved by council back in August 2025, we actually removed that component because we wanted to focus on the more critical assets. So that's kind of the background behind why we decided that.
Yes. And to basically keep that funding, DIA requires a council resolution to repurpose that away from the I&I project that they currently are expecting council to deliver.
But just to be reassured that the investigation that's already taken place is not wasted. I mean, like you say, it's still,
Yeah.
but there's be additional issues that are happening while we're
Through your worship, the network is constantly changing with age, with shakes as well. When we get a shake, something will change, particularly with our, some parts of our network. So yeah, we've got good knowledge of where there are issues, but that's a continuous job that we need to continue. The CCO will need to focus on that.
Morning.
Yes, you did bring it up, but I just need a bit more detail about one of the council main contracts lodged that came for back inflationary adjustments. So it will be a sizable increase to the council base operating costs going forward if agreed to. Question is, do we know potentially what is the total dollar value of this backdated claim or the percentage? So we have an idea.
So there's two components to this. One is the backdating and one is the amount going forward. There are commercial negotiations going on around this, but what we've done is looked at the going forward piece and have provisioned a significant increase in there. I won't say it in a public forum because obviously it's still being negotiated, but it's in the six figures, so it's not insignificant.
Any further questions? Yeah, Councillor Lennon and
Wondering, the use of better off funding, is that the part that has reduced it from the 7.6 to the 6.6 that you pointed out, or were there other?
There's a number of things that are mentioned in the report, but the sizable impact, particularly on the connected ratepayer, so this is the water connected, is the use of the better off funding to fund some of which was previously going to be rate or loan funded.
Yeah, just referring to page 462 with the list of townships, Whangaho not listed, but Te Pairahi referred to as a coastal residential. I've pulled this up a couple of times and even out at council presentations in Porongaho about differentiate between the beach area and the village. So, Te Pairahi to us is the name of the waters, and there's nothing being proposed to Porongaho to make it a different settlement.
Okay.
So it should be Porongaho Beach. Yeah.
Noted. Just both Te Pairahi, as it's listed here, and the village of Porongaho are both connected to water, so the rating impacts will be similar to what you're seeing at the bottom of page 462 there.
Councillor Muggeridge.
Have you put much thought into what the fuel crisis is going to do? Have you sort of done any factoring about, if it's still going halfway through June, we're going to have to change this? Have you put much thought into it?
Yes, through your worship, we have looked at the various activities that we undertake, and the fuel components vary significantly. So, for example, in the landfill operation, 70% of our costs are fuel because of that big machine that you've all seen that kind of moves the waste around. Whereas on, if you look at some of our recovery works, fuel component is more like the 6% mark. Mr. Chamberlain has provided for an additional cost in the landfill. It may not cover, but it depends on how the war plays out. So there's additional money that's gone in for landfill for the fuel component. But at this stage, there's nothing being added in for land transport maintenance operations. But kind of the approach that we would likely take, if we didn't want to increase the rate, is kind of adjusting the activities to fit within budget, which is what we have to do anyway when we get a new NLTP figure from NZTA. So it's the being able to adjust the activities, not the levels of service, but just slightly adjusting the activities without affecting levels of service. So there is a risk there because it depends on how much that fuel goes up. But yeah, there's some protection in there, but it's not 100%. It's not bulletproof.
Yeah, so my question is the timeline before this comes into effect on the 1st of July. When do we make a final decision? We don't want to end up with deficits at the end of the year.
The timeline from here is that this will go away and take the draft budget and put it into the booklet format that we've loaded up onto our website, and that'll get brought back to council for adoption and for the rate strike to happen on, I think it's the 7th of June. 4th of June. Get my dates right. No, it's the beginning of June. If you would like us to put some contingencies into the budget, we can certainly do that between now and then. We've got a fairly short window now before the first rates invoice needs to go out on the 1st of July.
How much work would be entailed? Oh, sorry, no. How much work would be entailed going through each activity and then working out a multiplier to put on it?
A lot of that thinking, as Mr. King has said, has already taken place, so it could be done. Obviously, you are probably not likely to be in the 6s anymore. You'll be back in the 7s in terms of a rate increase. But if that's the wish of the table, more than comfortable to do that and bring it back.
Thanks, Lennon.
I've been thinking that too. Even if there was money aside for, I mean, then that already, but whether or not we looked at some sort of fund into the catastrophic events fund or something like that, because yeah, we'd be naive to think that, well, we're already facing them in the 6 figures. We'd be naive to not plan for that the next year. But yeah, that's just my thoughts. But I get that we would want, 6.7 sounds good, but what does it do to the year after? That's my worry.
Brent, would we be in a position to, I'm conscious of finalising things so it can be prepared, but would we be in a position to bring back a contingency option that has been suggested that we could substitute, so we still proceed on the basis of 6.7, we bring back a contingency option that can be slotted in to the text if that's what you want to go with, some of that analysis you've suggested, Councillor Muggeridge, so we can make a choice then. We'll hopefully know more about the prognosis of settlements likely to occur in the Middle East, and we can also just, I know Mark's done a lot of thinking already, but one option is greater contingency has sort of been canvassed. One option is managing your work program as you go, and slightly less if prices are higher. So I'm just, if that is a option or it makes things too tight for the.
We can certainly do a different version of this and bring it back to you. It would need to come back fairly shortly for us to be able to turn it around for the current 4th of June meeting. But yeah, we've done a lot of the thinking already. It would just be a matter of applying a sort of a multiplier, as you say, to the various different activities based on the level of exposure to the fuel prices.
Follow up to that. Go again. Yeah, the options are we either reduce our capital program if this continues on. We either reduce the capital program. We don't want to affect levels of service, so we've got to take that out of it. So there's still head space for borrowing. We don't want to have to borrow to get out of it, but there's still head space there. So yeah, our decision is whether we stay with the 6.7 or put a multiplier, get it and try and get it as close as we can, and we might end up closer to 8 even. My guess is if we go through each activity.
Bit of explanation behind the thinking there, because you've gone beyond my accounting knowledge at the moment in terms of what do you mean by put a multiplier over everything? Like a contingency. As a contingency.
Yeah, so take our solid waste contract, for example, that is linked to fuel price. If we're assuming that fuel prices are going up by 2.8% normal CPI, which is what's in the budget, but actually we think that's going to be more like 20%, then we would basically, instead of adding a 2.8% inflation to that contract, we would add a 20% inflation to that contract. So the multiplier is the percentage that we think it'll go up by, based on what we're seeing with the fuel price and how much of that contract is fuel related.
Through you, does accounting process allow us to choose the multiplier? Does it have to be that big a jump?
We can put whatever you like in there. At the end of the day, it's a budget, so it's based on a whole lot of assumptions. We could assume that the war is going to finish tomorrow and all fuel prices will drop back to they were, or we could be prudent and put some provision in there, whether it's using current fuel prices or a blend of between what we saw back in March and what we're seeing today. That's entirely up to this table.
We allow for a hot elevated risk factor for 6 months and then back to normal after 6 months. You know, there's a whole lot of things we can model and play with. We don't want to boil the ocean here, but yeah, to Councillor Muggeridge's point, it's just really a risk assessment factor. Across each activity, the landfill, we've got a compactor running all the time on diesel, compacting the thing. The trucks are running around all the time with diesel, so it's separating out that cost component, not across the whole board. What's the risk factor for that cost component?
Through you, I know we've said we don't want to impact our levels of service, but I mean, if it becomes too bad and they've said, you know, we might be moving down a level, up a level or whatever it is at the moment. I mean, there must be some things that we could actually say, look, we're just not going to do, and we could move to fortnightly recycling or something like that because it became critical. So there must be some things that we are doing that we could actually not have to multiply because we just will stop doing it because of, you know, it's.
Yeah, so what we've done in the background, and we haven't really socialized it with this table, is that we've looked at the different levels. So we're at level 1 fuel restrictions at the moment. We've looked at what level 2 might look like, what level 3 might look like, and what things are critical to do and what things aren't critical to do. So you're right, some things you just might stop doing temporarily while you're up a level. Other things you have to deliver because there's a public health risk if you stop. So for example, you just can't stop treating wastewater or drinking water, but you might stop your resealing program, for example, or shorten it do less of it. So these are all things that you could do without necessarily altering your budget, but and would involve a temporary level of service change until the war resolves itself.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, it's a very good question, because some of those things may not be our choice. If we get into levels 3 and 4, we may be guided to, and we've already been consulted on what we think the key elements of our operation are. In, as Mr. Chamberlain's outlined, those public health elements are the key, the first priority that should be given priority for diesel supply if it becomes rationed or controlled, and things like carrying out inspections on consents become less potentially become less or some of them at least less critical.
They're even saying that even if this little situation is stopped, there's going to be a follow on for a few months. It's not just going to happen like that. So they said you have to factor those sort of things in. It's not going to be an overnight fix. It will be a long-term few months before the costs will start going down, if they go down.
Further questions?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we're taking a direction.
Yeah,
we're going to do some further work on a substitute option for some things to go into the package. We'll keep what we've got there, but we'll have a substitute you can sort of.
Yep.
We have to.
Well, we can consider and then decide at that time. Okay, so do we need to add something, I think, to the? No.
I think we probably do need to just adjust. Just add to the end of 1. Noting that councillors for
the contingency
option based on disruption from the Middle East conflict will be prepared for consideration at the 4th of June. Or before the 4th of June. I mean, that's finally where the decision will be made, isn't it?
That's where the decision will be made. So do you want 2 options for the 4th of June? Or do you want to one of the workshops later in May have that?
Yeah, so we can do something later in May, but let's leave 4th of June in the resolution, because that's when we'll lock it in. But yeah, at or before the 4th of June.
Okay. We've just got some words here. If you endorse the draft annual plan 26-27 refinements and draft budget outlined in this report in order for officers to finalise the annual plan 26-27, noting that councillors have asked for contingency option based on the Middle East conflict to be prepared for consideration for the 4th June meeting. Do we single out Middle East conflict or just what cost?
We single out through you, I think we do.
Based on implications from the Middle East conflict.
Yeah.
Well, I think contingency, because it was acknowledging that the staff have already factored that in, but we're looking for maybe something a little bit.
So the word further, based on further implications.
I think the through you, Your Worship, it was mentioned on or before the 4th of June. So that if something came up before then, we could actually lock something in for a presentation of the annual plan on the 4th of June without having to go through the options on that day. I thought that was,
On the 21st of May.
Yeah, for consideration on or before.
on or before.
Everyone happy with that amendment to that number 1 recommendation? I'm happy to move that we in that direction, and Councillor Muggeridge second. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Okay, Hawke's Bay Sedum Group Joint Committee Terms of Reference. So this is just, hopefully you've all had a read. It's reasonably straightforward terms of reference report, which has already been endorsed by the committee and just needs adoption from this council. Any discussion or questions? No. Okay, I'll move that we receive the report and adopt the terms of reference. Councillor Annan second. All those in favour? Against? Carried. And then date of next meeting is called for 4th of June. I'll move that we 4th of June. Can I have a seconder for that? Councillor Lawrence. All those in favour? Against? Carried. And that is the end of the meeting. So thank you, everyone. That was a good meeting with some good discussion, debate, and solutions. I think to those online been watching, and we will continue shortly with the Delivery and Performance Committee.
4 minutes, fine.
Welcome everyone. We've flipped into the Delivery and Performance Committee. First of all, we have an apology from Councillor Nepi Apatu. Move that be accepted.
I'll move.
Seconded, Councillor Greer. Third point, declaration of conflict of interest. Anyone got anything to clear? No. Standing orders, I'll move that our normal speaking standard was suspended for the meeting. Seconded, Councillor Taylor. All those in favour? Fifth, we're up to confirmation of minutes of the Delivering Performance Committee of the 12th of March as circulated. Anyone got any issues?
Just a query, is it necessary to note in the apologies that someone's online if they're present online? Being myself.
I'll just move it.
I've had that discussion before.
Yeah.
Sorry, my
Sorted. Other than that, move that a true and correct record. The Taylor, second, Councillor Byrne. All in favour? Carried.
With me is an apology, sorry.
Say that again, sorry.
I'm not listed as an apology, sorry. I just forgot to say that.
Oh, yeah.
In the minutes.
Yeah, in the minutes, yeah.
It does say that the
It does
apology
say
to
it.
Councillor Kelly and be noted.
Jared Minahan.
Yeah, did you?
Right, be noted and received.
Didn't there?
Number 2.
Page 7.
Okay, yep, we're into the decision reports. First one, resolution monitoring report. Who's on the job?
Through you, Mr. Chair, this is just a static report containing all the resolutions from the previous meeting and their status assigned against it.
Okay. Any questions on any of that? No. The recommendations the council receives and notes the resolution monitoring report. Mover. Councillor Taylor, seconded, Councillor Greer. All those in favour?
Aye.
Carried. Item 6.2, procurement policy endorsement. Right. Hello, Brian.
Chair, elected members, how are we this morning? So the purpose of the paper this morning is to seek of the revised proposed procurement policy. As you all know, the procurement policy has been workshopped a number of times, and it hasn't changed a lot since the last version that was presented to you. However, we are now ready to present this finalised version, with the large focus being on the local suppliers. So we had quite robust discussions about that. We've added it into the policy, and you will see it if you're looking through the policy on page 4. This policy supports council's commitment to maximising value for community, and we have placed quite a specific emphasis on procuring local suppliers where the capability and capacity to deliver the services does exist, and it could still provide value for money. Going forward, we're also looking to give our local suppliers more visibility across our forward works. We're looking to try and do a 12-month outlook, but we haven't quite confirmed this yet, so we're not quite sure what that's going to look like. But just to clarify, this is the policy and it will sit at a governance level. It will be external facing. It will sit on council's website. However, we are also developing the procurement manual in the background, which will support the policy. This will be internal facing and it will help our council officers to guide through their procurement processes. The manual will also help us deliver a more consistent approach to how we do procurement, and it will provide better support and more understanding for our council officers that don't do it as much as others. There's a few other updates to the policy that I'd just like to note. It's currently aligned with best practice as per MB's updated 5th edition to the New Zealand Government procurement rules last year. We have included the key result areas, which have already been embedded across council through our contract management and procurement processes. There's greater alignment with other council activities. So for example, measures for jobs, economic development, waste minimisation, our multi engagement strategy, and these will all be kind of further expanded when we have the manual up and running. With that said, officers recommend option 1, adopting the updated proposed procurement policy. It has a stronger focus on local suppliers, better reflects current council priorities, supports value for money, and provides a strong platform for the forthcoming manual, which will have all the right size templates. So I will take the paper as read, and if anyone has any questions, happy to answer.
Bria. Chair, so the local contractors, you've got a current register of those contractors that are up to doing this work. There's nothing to stop new contractors coming in periodically. They just have to go through the process.
Through you, Mr. Chair, yes, we do. We have got what we would class as civil contractors. However, we also want to kind of expand that and look at our local builders, our local electricians, our local plumbers, that sort of thing as well, and have like a specific focus on some of the procurement that we can do with them. But there's absolutely nothing stopping anyone from joining those conversations.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Choate.
It's probably more of a comms situation, but I noticed there was a post put up about Russell Park, all the work being done there by local contractors. Just thinking maybe showcase the local, not just say local contractors, you know, have a post up of who the contractor was, what the work stipulated. Like I know more than one contractor was involved in that. Be good to showcase them.
Through you, Chair. I absolutely agree. That kind of sits with the activity lead who's leading those sorts of projects, but absolutely the comms piece is huge.
Following on from Councillor Greer's question, so those that aren't currently involved or engaging with council, are we going out comms wise to say that these opportunities do exist? Because currently kind of when you talk about procurement and how they engage with council to be able to be involved in tendering for projects, and how do they find out about them?
Through you, Chair. We are working through that at the moment. With our civil works, I already run a forum called the Service Delivery Excellence Forum, and that has people that are already engaged, but also people outside of that as well. It's contractors, it's consultants, it's quite a vast thing. But in terms of the smaller kind of procurement works, we're aiming to have a similar look to it, but we're not quite sure what that looks like yet. But yes, there'll be comms inviting interest and inviting people to meetings and that sort of thing.
Just to add to that through you, Chair, I think something that we got from the last 2 conversations in the workshop, and also the individual feedback that I've received as well, is just I think we're missing a trick is just providing visibility of the activities, and not the big stuff. Sometimes it's the the building stuff or the electrical plumbing. Providing visibility to those players and making sure that we're in contact with them. We've got their email addresses. We go, right, over the next 12 months, we're expecting to do this type of work. We don't exactly know what it looks like, but are you interested? Because that then gets them engaged in there's X amount of dollars of work to do over the next 12 months, and then just keep on with that process, make it enduring. Yeah.
Thank you.
Moynihan.
So I think we've covered it. So we'll be sort of looking like a procurement calendar, would you say, or targeted email alerts? I'll just write some ideas down, or supplier registers portal, something. Those 3 options. That's what we're sort of looking at.
Yes, that's exactly what we're looking at. Again, some of it's reactive works which you can't plan for. However, what we can, we will. and hopefully we'll be able to hold regular kind of meetings, and it's a way of getting feedback from them as well.
In the background, we're already starting to work on the asset management plans that'll form part of the long-term plan that we'll be developing towards the end of this year, beginning of next year. That will obviously indicate the planned works coming up, and will also be able to be used to start some of those conversations with, this is the type of work we've got coming up and this is the type of timing that we're thinking we'll be doing that work.
I was just interested in the manual that you talked about. I was a little bit distracted. Is that, so that's sort of like you picture some sort of a, this is who we are, this is who you're partnering with, kind of a process. Is there like information about what council's visions and statements and all that sort of stuff, our ethos, our values, those sorts of things in there?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So through you, Mr. Chair, yes, and it's a step-by-step guide, basically for internal officers to be able to do it well. But that is messaging that is going to be driven right throughout it. How they engage with people, expectations around performance, all the sort of criteria that we need to produce the right outcomes for the community.
They had the inclination to give back to community, how they could do that. Yeah, those sorts of things, you know, like,
we'll invite you back to some meetings if you'd like.
That would be awesome.
Councillor Taylor.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair, just looking at that, us adhering to or adapting MB procurement templates, best practice, etc., aligns us with what neighbours are doing. Should regional collaboration happen further in the future?
Brilliant, Mr. Chair, yes, they are best practice guidelines, so we are able to adapt them and make them very CHB focused. A lot of what MB produces is quite, it's big city council kind of, so we've got to right size it for CHB. But yes, absolutely, we can adapt them.
And having worked in Hastings and worked alongside their procurement team, I can confirm that they also have a policy that is guided by the MB guidelines. So certainly best practice, and so what we will be doing will be very similar to what Hastings and Napier would be doing as well.
Okay, the recommendation is to adopt the proposed procurement policy. We have a mover. Councillor Annan, second Councillor Greer. Would you like to speak, Councillor Annan?
I just think well done. Thank you so much for taking up on many wants to be able to do this kind of stuff, especially around the local supplier stuff. It's super important to every single one of us around this table, and you've really nailed it. So thank you, and look forward to seeing how it actually plays out, you know, through comms and recognising people. And I think even just picking up on what Councillor Todd Choate said, you know, just advertising other people then might actually allow them to go, hey, well, if they've done it, then I can do it too, because it can be quite a scary process embarking in government organisations, you know, contracting to them. So yeah, I think it'll be a real form of encouragement for our local contractors. So thank you very much.
Councillor Greer.
Don't really want to say much more than that, but no, well done, team, and we've workshopped this several times, so yeah. And it's great for our local contractors. Awesome.
Anyone else? I'll just add, thanks for listening to the table, and you've put it into print and now into practice. So well done. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. Don't go too far away.
No, I was like, put this paper down, come back.
No.
Right, my annual contract performance update.
So the purpose of this paper is, it's just an informational paper to give you an update and give visibility to the table around how our term contracts are performing. So the report is based on the first 2 quarters of the financial year, so from July to December last year. We have previously brought this to the governance table. We brought it in a public excluded environment. And so we have rolled it up, taken out some of the sensitive data, and have now got it fit for public consumption. By way of background, historically, council, we didn't really have a standardised approach to contract management. And that kind of let the performance fall through the cracks a little bit. So we have now had a laser focus on increasing what we do and standardising process across the council. And this has led to an increase in maturity on how we report and what we're reporting to the table. We're proactively driving results with our suppliers. We're being really collaborative in our approach to how we manage contracts. We're building those really good, trusted, open, honest relationships, which is helping actually drive a lot of efficiency. The creation of our Service Delivery Excellence Forum has actually really helped in this space. We've been able to get a number of contractors in the room, give them full visibility over what's happening. It's provided workshopping for some of our smaller local guys that don't get the exposure to some of our tier 1, tier 2 kind of contractors. So building relationships, which has been really awesome. And one of the heaviest focuses we've had is building the community confidence in what we're doing and how we're delivering our services, making sure they're aware that we are holding our contractors to account. Also with the responses to the request for service. So across our 4 major infrastructure activities, we have seen quite a tangible decrease in the amount of time it's taking for us to respond and close off our RFSs. On a note with RFSs, we are doing further analysis on it. So we're hoping to be able to bring back some trends and some deeper analysis as to how we go about our RFSs, but that will hopefully come in a future report. As an overall note, our term contracts are tracking really well in terms of performance, and our council officers continue to commit to that collaborative approach. We're working with contractors to ensure the accountability and efficiency of delivery, and we're just continuing to build those really good, honest, open, trusting relationships with them. So with that said, I will take the paper as read, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
My question is, do any of our neighbouring councils have these sort of metrics on hand? And if they do, how do we compare? How does our performance compare?
Through you, Mr. Chair. To be honest, I actually am not aware.
Right.
But that's definitely something I can look into.
It'd just be quite interesting to see if it'll drive for improvement or whether we're in a good space.
Through you, Chair, if I can just add to that, there is a requirement under NZTA contracts, to have a regular monthly and a quarterly measure and reporting of, key performance. So that would be pretty standard across a large proportion of the work.
Mr. Chair, that would be to the government. That would be to staff, not the governance table, though, wouldn't it?
Through you, Chair, the workshop.
The NZTA requirement.
The NZTA requirements, yeah. The previous workshop, we've brought visibility of the actual scores against each of the individual companies, but this report is just a roll up of all that. So you have had detail of that.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, I wasn't meaning that. I was meaning other districts. The NZTA requirements to have that report back. That's an operational thing, not a government.
That's an operational thing that officers would be taking to their elected members across the country. Yeah.
Might be. Yeah. Not a follow-up from yours. Page 37, just noting that you say that further analysis is being undertaken. This is the request for service community connection is the headline. Just the parks and cemeteries being so much longer than the other areas. Is this less urgent reasons for RFSs, or is there any reason of why it's so different?
Through you, Mr. Chair. It is a difficult one. Weather can have quite an impact on us being able to get out on the district and actually complete and close some of what the community are telling us is out there that's needing to be done. It's definitely something that we're working with the Parks and Properties team. This is really accurate. It's giving you a really clear picture. So we're not trying to hide anything, but we're using this as a way to improve what we're doing. So it's holding them to account and saying, look, everyone else is sitting at this level. How do we help you get to this level too? So almost using it like an improvement tool.
Peer pressure.
No, yes, little bit, but yeah, it's just allowing us to dive deeper into where we are having a few issues and what can we do to make sure it's not going to continue to be that way.
For you, Mr. Chairman, just taking in mind that some of the nature of the service requests in Parks and Properties may not quite have the same level of urgency as some of the ones, for instance, at a water break or something like that. So they're but not detracting from what Bryce said.
And just to add to that, also stuff like the first kind of quarter of this is actually midwinter as well, which we kind of need to take into account, which is why we're going to kind of try to do a bit more analysis and work out whether it is a seasonal sort of trend that we're seeing, that sort of thing as well.
I can just add as well through you Chair, there's another factor that plays out in here as well as, we've got a fixed number of resources to match our budget. And we do tend to get a lot of complaints in the parks and reserves area. So there's lots of little things that need to be done. So it's about balancing the more critical items with the fixed resources that we've got. Otherwise we'd have to pay for more people to get onto stuff quicker.
Oh, did you want to follow?
Just, yeah, just one item that may improve this then going forward is just the fact that if is the expectation of the RFSs. There's no expectation, and therefore, if parks and cemeteries are allowed 6 to an average of 5.5 days, then it's not a red flag. But if they're expected to be 2 days, then it is a red flag, sort of thing. So just some expectations, and it might help them.
Yeah, I believe, and Mr. Elspiel can probably correct me if I'm wrong, but council standard is 3 working days. So at least respond.
Regardless of, yeah. Okay. Thanks, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for allowing me to butt in, Gerard.
Thank you. Just any request for service. Just remind me, please. Water services between July, October, pretty steady, and then it spikes November to December. Is that a concern, or is there an underlying issue here, or because it's summer and there's more leaks?
We haven't got that through you, Chair. We haven't got that level of detail in front of us today. But I suspect what happens in the summer is you get the dry ground, and then you start to see more of the drinking water leaks across the roads, and so they become more obvious. You get more complaints. Yeah.
So to add on to that, we're doing our renew programs. It would be worse, would you think? Programs.
Yeah, through you, Chair. If you remember from the August 2025 revised plan, we are focusing more on the critical water assets, the larger pipes. Some of those smaller pipes, we would just leave them for longer because we're focused on the more critical assets, which aligns with the asset management policy principles that I socialized in last week in the workshop.
Worship.
Just remember, Councillor Moynihan, growing up on a farm, your troughs always leak and your pumps always break down over the summer.
Your pools.
A total of 3,877 RFSs. That was, I thought, wow, that's a lot. Is that kind of normal?
That's across whole council.
Yes.
Yeah.
Was that?
Sorry, through you, Chair. My sort of focus on the RFS sits with our infrastructure and contract. So, I mean, there's quite a number of other activities that will feed into that number. I can find out for you if you'd like some further
I just
information.
was surprised it sounds a lot.
It is a large number.
Yeah.
It also applies to people applying for building consents and resource consents and,
Oh, okay, it's not just,
you know, animal
Yeah.
control, all that sort of thing as well. So there's quite a number of activities that feed into that total number.
yeah, okay, that's fine, yeah.
So, Chair, more of an observation really. I was just out and about a few weeks ago out the back of on the Takapo Ormondville Road. And I had a local public stop me and ask me why we had 2 roading crews. They didn't realise it was on the other side of the boundary, so it wasn't even to do with us, but Rangitoto Road was. And they were asking why there were so big comparisons between the 2 crews, and I said it was 2 different companies. But it was, and it made me think, and I went back and there is a lot of, obviously they're doing heavier, more works on their side of things, but very similar works on Rangitoto Road. Just, yeah, is that just trying to make it more visible for people? It's just hard to get across to people how it works.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I think what probably needs to be explained is that we have Downer running the maintenance.
Yeah.
And then Higgins currently have the AWPTs, which is where you're kind of a little bit more invasive into the road surface and it's rebuilding from the bottom up, that sort of thing, not just a reseal, just yeah, that's Higgins' contract, which is why they're out there as well. And then Downer will be doing all the
drainage. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, just to add to that, to you, Chair, so from the 1st of July 2027, that all changes because Downer have single point accountability, you know, for the majority of the maintenance, particularly the road surface. And the reason is to create efficiencies and also to kind of stop the finger pointing between multiple suppliers working on the same asset.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. We're just about done on that one.
Can I add something, Eugene?
Okay.
Yeah, and I just want to thank elected members for backing officers on the procurement approach too with local suppliers. It hasn't been plain sailing, but it's really pleasing to see some of our local suppliers really building capability, not just in the tendering process. You know, some have fallen flat on their face and then but picked themselves up and then gone and won a contract, and others are kind of working through the pain of having to work on the road in the road corridor for the first time. But those contractors are growing, and they're growing really quickly in capacity and capability. So I just wanted to thank this table for, you know, backing officers in that respect, because that there was a bit of risk associated with that, but we are building you know strong capability in the district.
Thanks for that feedback. That's good. Right, we have a recommendation that the report be noted. Councillor Taylor, second. Councillor Greer. All those in favour? Excuse me, date of the next meeting, the 2nd of July 2026. Move Councillor Moynihan, second Councillor Choate.
Yeah.
Another clown.
Money for me.
He doesn't even speak those.
Meeting closed at 4:17. Thank you.